Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Thanks for joining. Today, we're going to continue working on our web spider project. So I've put together kind of a little bit of a to-do list. I actually had it ready for the last one and then just forgot to actually load it. But basically, these are the things we've done so far, and then just some of the tasks that we need to accomplish over the next couple of streams. Last night, before we signed off, we talked about taking a regex of skip lists, so like ignoring WP JSON or any other kind of regexes that we want to exclude from our spidering and indexing. But I realized that before we do that, we should probably tackle one other issue, and that is right now we're only looking at parsed HTML URLs in some parsed HTML. Now that's good, but it's not perfect, because what happens is font files, for example, if they're referenced in a CSS file, they could be in a URL function. So it might look something like URL http blah 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 site.com/font.waf or whatever. And so we need to be able to find those. We also need to be careful because there's the potential for this link to be relative. So it could look like this. And in those cases, we still want to be able to download the font file as it is. So we basically need to parse out what's inside the URL function first, and then figure out, okay, is this a relative link or is it an absolute link? And then if it's an absolute link, we need to just go fetch that file as is. Otherwise, we need to append the kind of initial URI. So like we'd have to put on the site.com or whatever, the initial URI file or property. And then the same for JavaScript files. So we basically just need to scan for any strings matching the initial URI. Now, because there's really no standard way of including URLs in JavaScript files, relative URLs aren't going to be found in any obvious way. Like we could possibly look for something like a colon and a slash, or a quote and a slash, but that's not going to be super reliable. So until we have a better way to do this, we're basically just going to look for ones that match the initial URI and then kind of grab those as necessary. If we find that the JavaScript is still really broken, maybe we can find some broken JavaScript files and then dig into why they're broken. But I think for right now, this will give us a good place to start, and then we can always kind of keep digging if we make some progress here. The skip list stuff, we're probably going to skip today unless this stuff goes extremely quickly. I'm not expecting it to, just because there's a lot of kind of, I think, hidden complexity in these for as far as like searching for URLs and then parsing them and that kind of thing. So I think if we can get even just the CSS stuff done today, that would be amazing. Accomplishing the JS as well would be wonderful. And then I highly suspect this is going to be like a tomorrow or the next day kind of thing. So let's dig in. And so we will go into Vim and we'll go into main.rs. Now, again, for the Rust aficionados that are watching this, yes, I realize that this is all one giant file right now. And yes, I am aware that that is not good. I do have kind of a concept that we need to be splitting this out into modules. I don't know much about modules, and right now I want to get the functionality working first before we start refactoring into something that's better. And one of the things that I like about Rust is that if it compiles, it works, and so it'll be really easy to refactor some of this stuff out into modules in the future without breaking stuff. I'd rather do that rather than having to flip back and forth between files that I'm not super comfortable with yet. So for right now, we're just doing one giant file, but this is not going to be the final version or the final release, what it looks like. It's going to be better than this. But for right now, we're just going to have a whole bunch of functions inside the main.rs, and then we can work on splitting stuff out later. So with that said, what did we say? So we're going to work on the CSS files first. So we need to go to the process URI. So what happens first is we go and fetch the contents, and then if it's empty, we failed to fetch that file. Okay, fine, whatever. So let URIs to add. So this is getting URIs to add, And this is the function that basically, if we go down to here, parses the document into HTML. Now, up until this point, we have been assuming that the contents have been HTML. And so far it's worked great. It's found all the links inside a document, but what it hasn't found is it doesn't look inside CSS. Like if the file is a CSS file, it just basically pukes out and doesn't do anything, which, whatever, it's fine. But what we need to do is say, okay, we need to be a little more intelligent and say like, I want to say, we're going to do some print line debugging here for a minute. So we're going to say like parsing file, and we want to say parsing. Oh, actually, okay. So we're not passing in the file name. We're just passing in the raw HTML. So this is like actually this is the contents, because that's not real necessarily HTML. We've just been assuming that it is. So what we really want to say is like, we want to determine if contents are HTML. If not, parse with CSS, CSS parser, or JS parser. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually extract this stuff. Why is this complaining? Okay. So we're going to say, I want to extract this into kind of like an HTML specific parser. And then so I wonder what does this return if it's not HTML? Because we're assuming that it is. Contents are HTML. I want to say, okay, so what I'm thinking about is here is like, I know from, I think the first stream is like, if when we were trying to write the files, if it wasn't able to write the file, it basically just skipped the rest of the processing. And so what I want to do is I want to have kind of a thing here where it's like, okay, so print parsing HTML document, HTML document content. And then what I also want to do is I want to like print the first like few, like let's say 10 characters or something of what it finds, because I want to see if like, and then we'll say like content parsed or whatever, right? So I want to see if there are any like kind of mismatched groups of this. So there will be like contents, and so how do we say this? Like print out first 20 characters of contents is what we want. Cool. Okay. So, and then actually let's make like some kind of identifier. So we're going to say like, let log ID equals, how do we, okay, so this is going to be first Google of the day already. All right, so we're going to say, how do I generate a random UUID in Rust? UUID crate, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So cargo add UUID. Okay, so new v4. All right. Okay, so we're going to say let log ID equals UUID new v4. And again, this doesn't need to be perfect. We're literally going to be getting rid of this in a minute anyways. So it's literally just long enough to print some stuff here. So why is that not working? Do we need to include like v4 as part of the features? Features equal v4. Cool. Not a total dummy. All right, so we're going to say log ID. Oh, no, not curly braces there. whoa. Log ID. I'm gonna say why are my fingers not doing what I want them to do today? Yes, that's gonna complain. Yep, that's fine. So we're gonna say log ID. Log ID, and we want to. So basically, for any log we print out, there should be 3 lines, right? So if we go to cargo run, we're just going to do this for a shorter site so that we don't get inundated with stuff. Okay, HTML, doc type HTML. Okay, so are there any? Okay, so it's finding the photos. Okay, so this is a PNG that it's found. This is obviously some JavaScript. Okay, so I think then what we should do. Actually, okay, so let's go back to this for a sec because we want to find out like if. Okay, so here's a JavaScript one. So 2437. So that never gets to the HTML content parsed. So basically what I was thinking is correct. So if it doesn't find HTML, it basically just skips the rest of this entire function and just returns back with nothing, which is whatever. So we need to find a way to extract this stuff to its own like HTML parser. Otherwise, we want to make what do I want to say? Like a CSS parser and a JavaScript parser. And I'm using parser very loosely here. Like I'm not saying we're going to go find a crate. We might just do some very simple heuristics for now and then refine it later. But basically what we want is we want them all to return this URIs to add, which is basically just a vector of a vec of URIs. So what I'm thinking about is like, okay, so if we say, check if the contents are HTML. Perfect. Okay, so if not, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay, so we'll say if contents start with, okay, so in fact, let's say, if contents start with that, then let's run. So we'll say, so how are we doing it here? We're just HTML tag parse selector. So we've got kind of our own little HTML selector or parser already. What is that returning? It returns a vector of strings. Okay. And then it's stripping unnecessary characters. Okay. So this, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to say, just make this function HTML parser. It's going to take in the contents as a whatever. Again, it's not going to like that right now. That's fine. What is it taking it in up here? At stir. Okay, fine. Whatever. At stir. Okay, and we need the tags. And so we're going to yes, and then we're going to return this URIs to add. That's fine because if we do this, back of URIs, okay. Okay, so does not need to be mutable. So we can say content, blah, 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 URI. So let URIs to add equals HTML content parser. Yes. Okay. So that goes away. Now, how? Yeah. Really, what we don't even need to do this. We can just say, because if it's an HTML file, we can just say return HTML parser. And it's going to return a vec of URIs. Okay, so let's just get rid of all of this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to say is, okay, so what is the heuristic we're going to use to find if expression without else. Okay, so actually, yeah, if after all of this processing we find nothing, we're just going to return a vector of nothing, which is fine. Okay. So the next heuristic is like, so if contents start with an open bracket, and that's actually kind of interesting that if it's talking about searching for if the response is a JSON file, do we really care about data? I don't think so, because I think the data should be assumed to be dynamic, and we don't want to like hard code a bunch of like JSON data that the user might not be expecting. So I think we skipped the JSON parsing for now. So what I'm just trying to think here. What is going to be our heuristic for heuristic for determining file type? So we're going to say, yeah, if it contains HTML, it's HTML. And actually, you know what? I'm going to put that contains HTML, right? So if it contains the HTML tag, we know it's HTML. If it, what were our lists here? So CSS and JS. So if it contains function, it's JavaScript. Yeah. Now, obviously, this is not the only thing we're going to use here. I'm just trying to like get some ideas down, and then we can again think about the. Actually, you know what? Okay, so I think we're making this a little too difficult here. So URIs to add. Do we get, okay, so we do get the URI. So if we pass this down, we should just be able to look at the file name. And actually, I think that's probably a better way to do it. Instead of trying to like use some heuristics and detect what it is. Again, I think eventually we could kind of add that functionality, but if we just say URI, mutable URI, yep. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we want to reference to URI. Oh, not that. We want an and. Okay. And actually, we don't even need it to be mutable because we're not going to be changing it. We're just going to be getting it. So yeah, so that. Mismatch type expected, URI found at mute URI. Okay, so I guess we have to take it as mutable. Actually, I'm thinking we should probably do a clone because I don't want to be changing anything in. Oh no, not like that. URI clone, yes, and so now we can get rid of that. That should be fine now, right? Because I don't want to. We're not going to be changing anything about the URI value. We just want to basically look at the file name, like the parsed file name. So that's going to be the first thing we need to do. So get rid of all of that. Actually, we'll leave it for now because I know when I was playing around earlier, like originally for the first couple days of the spider, that there is a URL parser REST crate. So we're going to say REST URL parser. It's a little frustrating to work with, but whatever. And actually, now that I'm saying that, we might actually already be using it. So URL. Okay. Yes, that's what we're already using. So cool. That can go away. The writer can go away. So yeah, we want to say, now, okay, so we want to get the file name. What I'm curious about right now is if we're getting the index.html part of the file name. I know we did that earlier as part of stuff, but I don't remember if that actually gets added to path. Does the URI include a path? It doesn't. Oh, it does. Okay, so relative path. It's got the local storage path and the local file name. So do we get a path? And so on the URI, we're getting a relative path from the off the function, but we don't have a property that can do some of this stuff. So this is like this logic here, which is like it found a directory, also it found a file. So I think what I want to do is I want to say file path is a string. File path is a string new. Okay, whatever. And so actually that could be interesting. Actually, no. We're going to say can we do at self dot file path equals index dot html to string. Expected and string. That feels weird. Invalid left. Yeah. Okay, so can't do it like that. Okay, so that's fine. So we're going to, and again, I'm going to use my PHP object-oriented brain here. This is probably not the right way to do it, but again, I will leave it to the commenters to tell me how I'm doing this wrong. I will happily do it. To update my code, however, so we're going to say like set file path. Yep. And we're going to say set. Can we do self.set file path? Cool. And this actually just needs to be a index.html.toString. Oh my god, that's annoying. ToString. Compare self as mutable as behind an at reference. Okay, so okay. either of those are going to return HTML. The last one. And here, instead of index.html, it's going to be last segment. Oops. Okay, so now on the URI, we should have access to this file path. And actually, you know what? I think that's a misnomer. I don't like impl URI. So the reason I don't like that is because it's not a file path. A path would include like the folder structure. So I want to be very, very specific about what that is. And so it's just a file name. File name. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And set file name. Okay, so now in our in here, when we get this URI, we actually have the file name. Whoops. So HTML parser, whatever. So if we say we're going to create now I'm curious. I'm sure this exists in here, but what I want to do is I want to create a function that tells us what kind of file type it is, and I want it to return an enum. Like I don't want it to just be a string. So how do I create an enum in Rust? Okay, so I just enum it with the options. Okay, cool. So let's say enum file type. Yep. And HTML, JS, CSS, sure. Unknown. Okay, so because I want to match over this, right? So we're going to say let file type of file type equals get file type of URI dot file name. Can we do that? Other than it puking that the function doesn't exist. Okay, so it doesn't seem to have a problem with that, which is good. Okay, so we're going to say function get file type based on the file name string. File name ends with that. Return file. Beautiful. Yep, that's exactly what we want. So if the file name ends with these and ends with that, return the correct enum. Okay, so now, and I don't know how to do a match statement, but let's say match file type. Oh my God, I love it. So this is going to be that, and this is going to be like the error case. Unknown file type detected. For right now, we're not going to puke out of here. We're just not going to do anything. So now this can go away. That can go away. All right. You know, this kind of matching is one of the reasons I love Rust, is because it is so obvious of what you're trying to do. And it's just, to me, it reads so cleanly. Like, okay, so we got this file type. And in fact, we could probably just inline this and just do that. Expected value found enum. Oh, right. That's right. Okay, so match, get the file type of the file name. If the file type is HTML, return the HTML parser. Now we just want to build a JavaScript and CSS parser. So let's do the JavaScript one first, because I think this is probably going to be the I'm calling it simpler. It's actually going to be more complicated, but again, kind of like yesterday's stream, we're going to take the sledgehammer approach for right now. We're just going to look at like basically find any string with regex that includes like the initial URI, and then we can kind of worry about being more intelligent about it and dealing with like relative path stuff. It might be the case that there's just no way to deal with the relative path stuff ever, but I want to get something working, and then we can worry about, like I said, refining it later. So let's go and say fn wait, HTML parser. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't async. I couldn't see why, but that's fine. So we're gonna say JS parser, and so again we're gonna take in the contents, isn't it? And stir. We don't need the tags because that's very much an HTML thing, but we are going to need the spider because that's where it has the initial URI. Okay, so parse JavaScript content define URIs. Yeah, you can use a regex, blah, blah, blah. So if we want to say parse content define URIs using regex and the URI, the spider dot initial URI. Pardon me. So in fact, that is actually a little too wide open because right now this would match any HTTP and we don't want it to. We only want to match the anything that starts with the initial URI. And I believe, where do we do the regex here? So I'm just going to copy this for now. And we're going to paste this here because it uses the format, which is fine. And if we now say spider dot initial URI, initial URI. Okay, so that's fine. And then we're going to say for RI, blah, blah, blah. That feels kind of right. So for capture and the captures iter, yep, let's some link equals the capture the one. We're going to change it to a string. If it starts with the initial, and actually we are already doing this in there. So we can just go like that because we don't need to already check since it's already being included as part of the initial URI. So I am curious. Return JS parser contents spider. Okay. So I actually do want to have print line here, HTML file detected, and then JavaScript file detected. Okay, so no problems. Standard. I don't know why that was even ever imported. Whatever. Any other issues? No. Okay, so JS parser. Let's just go back down to where we were. Now, I say there's about a 30% chance that this actually works. But hey, let's give it a shot. So cargo run. Let's see if it finds any JavaScript files. It finds none. Okay, so why did it find none? It's obviously returning the wrong stuff. So, HTML parser, there's our parser here. So if link starts with that, let URI strip unnecessary chars. Okay, so let's take a look here. So let parsed equals that. We're going to say print ln and then return parsed. Yeah, so I just want to see what it thinks it's getting. URI doesn't implement debug. Okay, so impl URI derive debug. JS parser back here. Okay, so pardon me. So it's not even getting the HTML file detected. Okay, so that's interesting. So println processing URI. What does it think the file name is? Dot file name. Wow, my typing is horrible today. Yeah, that can go away. Unknown file type detected. Okay, so right, all right. Because we now need to say on the first iteration that the file name is, so when it creates the URI for the very first one, spider initial URI clone, we want to say URI set file name is going to be index.html to string. And again, I realize that this is not, what am I trying to say? It's not super flexible because someone might not want to use index.html. But for right now, again, we're just going to try this and see how it goes. There we go. Okay, so it found a bunch of things. It did not. So unknown file type detected. Okay, that's fine for a PNG for the web manifest. Okay, but for these unknown file type detected, that's not what we expect. So these should be adding the index.html. Like you can see, like it's going to the right one, but it's like the file name part is not being put there. So self set. So if it doesn't contain a dot, directory found. So directory found, blah, 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 set file name, index.html. Is that not correct? Set file name, set file name, set file name. So why would that not be being set? ln setting file name for to that. Index.html dot to string. I just want to see if this is even the right place. Setting file name for /login to index.html. Okay, so it should be getting set. It's hitting this area. Okay, so back down to our thing here, get file type. So processing URI is it's not always happening. So the URI file name is not being set where we think it's being set. Because it's empty sometimes. So here's the problem: is this is I'm sure this is the /login part. We can println processing URI processing file name. setting file name, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so processing URI, processing file name. So the file name isn't actually getting set somewhere. And that's interesting because it's happening up here in our relative pathing stuff. So why is that not happening? Self set file name. Yeah, so we definitely need to initialize it there. Interesting. Why is this not happy? Because if we look here, it's saying setting file name for register to index.html, same with login, whatever. Yeah. Oh, the login one, unknown file type detected. Okay. Unknown file type detected. Okay. Interesting. Processing URI. So yeah, so the processing file name like this, I'm strongly suspect that it's this one, like the CSS file. Why is it not saving or like being, it's not updating the object or the structure. Sorry, I'm going back to my PHP wording here. URIs to add. So I suspect that it has to do with how we're processing things. Like, are we creating another URI somewhere? I don't think we are. Oh, we are. URI new. Okay, so why? Okay, I think I know what the problem is. Now I just got to think about, okay, so because here we're calling this outside. And so it's getting the relative path passed in. But I'm guessing before we do any processing, we're already passing the URI down to other things, like future URIs to do other things. So it's never getting the relative path stuff done quick enough. So I think what we want to do is so when we create a new one, basically what I'm thinking about is like we need a function that is just going to do this stuff, and then that relative path can call it, and so can like whenever it's created, we'll just have it as part of the struct. Yeah, this is interesting. What would be the best way to do this? don't want to do that. And I apologize if you can hear sounds here. There's some vacuuming going on right behind me in the next room. Okay, so when we create the URI, we have to give it a string. So if we say instead of setting a property or whatever, yes, I think it's a struct property. So instead of doing that, I think we should have just a dynamic getter on it. So fn get file name. Get file name. File name. Yep. Okay, split last unwrap or okay, so that will work in no, it won't. That's not what we want. So we want to say basically going to do the same logic as below for now, and then again when we refactor we'll make it better. So yep, pass segments, return index.html, if let last segment blah blah blah. So we want to, there's one more thing we have to do here. So we need to say, so we've taken care of this path, but we also need to do this stuff here. So else so that, yep. So if the last segment contains a dot, return index.html to string, else return last segment to string. Okay, so that can go away, that can go away, and that can go away. There's a similar name, but with different arguments. Where do you see? So there's a method with a similar name, but with different arguments. Whatever. For now, all right. File name with extension. Okay, go away. Okay, so now if we say get file name with extension, let's see, does that solve our problem? It probably doesn't, but method not found. Okay, so line 126, right? Because that doesn't exist anymore, and this doesn't need to be mutable anymore. Right, because now it'll just implicitly exist on any URI instance. Okay, well, that's all right. So HTML file detected on how it works. Okay. HTML file detected for a password. That's good. HTML file detected for how it works. Was there one for login? HTML, parse HTML, blah, blah, blah. HTML file detected, login. Okay, cool. So we have solved that problem. Cool. Away. So we're going to say JS parser again. So now, so let's see why parsed HTML. Don't need that anymore. This can just be returned. here. Okay, so get rid of all this. So the next question is, why is it not detecting JavaScript files, right? Because it's got a bunch of oh, JavaScript file detected. Okay, so app, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so interesting. Let's, so we're going to say let parsed equals this, and then print ln JavaScript file parsed. No, that's not, we're going to return parsed. Parsed, this has to be, I think, like that. So does it find any links in any of those JavaScript files? I mean, it's possible that there just aren't any, which is fine, I think. I think what I want to do though is if we go to the, I actually want to like open up this file and we're just going to like find something that we can search for just to make sure like that we're generally getting the right stuff. Yeah, that's a lot of crap, basically. It's all minified. So let's just find a string that we can like return on just to make sure that it's like finding something. So maybe if we return functions. Okay, so instead of this, we're just going to comment that out for a second. Find, use regex to find all functions. That is not what we're looking for. Try again. Let re equals regex, regex, new, r hash import require. In fact, since we're not doing, we're doing ES6, so this can just be function. Invalid escape. What doesn't it like? No. So needs a string. So I think it's like R this. Can we do? Oh, okay. So we don't even need to be fancy about it. Okay, so let's just go like search for function, any white space, and an open bracket. Is that going to let us do it? And whatever. It's going to complain about spider not being used. Whatever. We'll be back to this in a second. And so, let's like print this out. So print ln. Oh, right. It's not going to do that. We need println found function. Right. No, okay. Doesn't like that either. Print ln. It's not really going to be a link. It's really going to be a function because we're just messing around right now. Whatever. JavaScript file parsed, so it's not seeing any functions. Is there like another thing we could search for? Function dot star. This should be pretty obvious if we find the right thing. I just want to make sure that I'm not like really messing up here. So, okay, new code, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, we will try this. let cannot be used for global variables. That's new. Okay, so that back, unwrap. Dot star. I need a regex for the Rust crate regex that looks through a JavaScript file and returns any functions. Now is it going to complain? Failed to process URI. Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's obviously finding stuff. Yeah. Okay. So cool. So it's finding these. These are obviously wrong. We're not looking for functions, but at least it's finding the file, and then these are all the failures. It trying to like load these as URIs, which obviously is not going to work. So okay. So I mean, that said, this should hopefully work. So that means that the JavaScript files that I have just don't have any links in them, which, you know, is totally possible. So now let's move on to the CSS parser, which I think is going to be a little bit more difficult. Not going to be impossible by any means, but it's going to be a little more intense because now we have to deal with the fact that, pardon me, that the URIs could be relative, and that's actually a thing in my specific site that I use here. So if we go to here, load up the CSS, that is really hard to read. But if we look for URL this, okay, so we're gonna have to actually keep in mind that we don't want any like SVG stuff. So let's just make some notes here. So we're going to say fn CSS parser. We're going to need the contents as an @stir and the spider as an and spider is going to return a vec of URIs. Now all this is going to go away. Okay, so we need to look for URL functions, CSS content. We want to ignore any that start with that. We want to determine if the URL is relative or absolute. If relative, reconstruct the full URL based on the current URI. Yeah. So okay. So here's what I'm talking about. There's got to be more than this. So what I'm thinking about is, okay, so we also want to, data image is all stuff we can ignore. What I'm concerned about is the font files, and the font files, I could have sworn, maybe it was another CSS file. Just one sec. So we looked at that one. Is there another? Okay, let's go to nextA.dev. And if we go to viewed page source, and then where's the CSS file for this site? Style, I think was this. No, it was the Eris URL. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. So the URI for this font, this icomoon.dot font, is it's relative to where this file is, I believe. So if we like copy this, because this is the actual path. So if we replace style, yeah, so that's the font file, whatever, right? Obviously it's unreadable, but that's fine. The point is that that's where it exists. So there's going to be like three actual types here, three actual options here. So like option 1 is like URL is like a fully valid font file, whatever, right? So we're going to say like font.waf. Option 2 is font.waf. The third is font like with a slash. And so if it's just slash, we just need to prepend URI or spider.initial URI. Don't do anything. And this, let's even go like sort of path. So we need to say get the current URI, remove the last path segment, and append the new path. Right. So let's see if we can figure this out. Data image, because we don't care what kind, whether it's an SVG or a PNG or whatever. So let's just start working here. So so we want to say find all matches for URL. Cool. Okay. Just scroll down a bit so we have a little more screen space here. So if blah blah blah, if it doesn't start with data image, right? So actually, let's just do like this. We're going to go this, and we're going to say, why is my keyboard not doing this? Continue, because we just don't care about it. Okay, so if so now we're kind of getting into the meat and the potatoes here. So let's just move that over, that down. Check if the link is relative or absolute. Yep. If so, how do we want to do this? I'm thinking we say let parsed URI equals, or like so link is actually already a string. So if link starts with HTTP, we can just don't do anything. So the URL. In CSS. So if the link starts with a slash, so what did we say for this one? We say if it starts with a slash, we just want to prepend the spider initial URI. So relative in CSS, base URL, link, new URL for resource found in CSS. Okay, so if it doesn't start with a slash, we need to, so this stuff is wrong here. We need to basically parse out so we're dealing with this path, option 2 here. So get the current URI, remove the last path segment, and append the new path. So we want to parse URI, remove last path segment, and then append the new path. So let parse URI, blah, blah, blah. Nope. Parse. This is the link. The string. Yep. What does it got here? Path segments count equals 0. Nope. Don't care about that. Yeah, last segment, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we want to what are we working with here? Do we have an URI? We do not. So if we say return CSS parser, we also want the URI for this one because we're going to need to do some parsing. We'll probably need it in the other ones as well, but for right now, whatever. URI. Variable, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so we want to new path, yep, and we want to let new path equals new path replace last segment with the link. Does that make sense? I honestly am kind of broken at the moment. My brain is a little bit frazzled. So relative URL found in CSS. It's most definitely used. This is never read. Okay, so then we're going to say print new path. This new URL. Resource new URL updated for source found in CSS. Okay, and then so we don't want that. We will say let new URL equals string. Actually, I guess we can just go like this. If let mute mutable, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. So this is going to say link to stir. Is that a thing? I think it is. One day I will learn this stuff. As stir. Okay. Create a longer lived value. Temporary value dropped while borrowed. Okay, so how do we do this? Dropping water all over myself. You're amazing. Okay, so again, I just want like a temporary variable, whatever, that I can write into an update if I need to. That does not need to be mutable. Fine. So we're going to say let new URL equals string new. And again, I realize that this is probably the wrong way to do it, but that's okay. I'm going to say new URL equals link to string. Assigned to but never used. Not assigned twice to immutable variable. Okay, so mute. Assigned to is never read. Yeah, now I assume that this is puking because if I change this to new URL, does that solve all of those problems? Okay, so it does read. Okay, so it is reading the right place. Okay. All right, new URL. So if it's not, if it starts with HTTP, we know it's an absolute link. If it starts with a slash, we know we need to prepend the initial URI. Pardon me. Relative. If it doesn't have a slash, then we know we need to get rid of the last path string. Okay, well, I have no idea if this is going to work, as usual. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so that's not going to be helpful because that site doesn't have any fonts. Okay, so let's cancel out of here. So let's see, did it find any JavaScript? Relative URL found in CSS. Okay, that's good. Panicked at main 377. 377. Parse link. Is that not how we... Oh, right, because it's not, if it's a relative, it's not going to be parsable. Okay, yeah, right. Duh. So, yeah, this was kind of dumb of us thinking that was going to be possible. So, we have a string. So this is going to be like path dot font path slash one. So we just basically need to so we want to take the current path, split it into segments by slash, and remove the last segment, and then append the what are we looking for here? We're looking for, oh, right, no. So, okay, this is right. This is the wrong part. So we need URL. So this is a URI. Oh, how do we get the current path? Because I don't think, oh, URI should, yeah, the URI.URI. Okay. URI.URI. Expected that. And can we just do clone? Does that go Go to Atster. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's see if that solves our problem. Probably not. I think there's probably more that we're not handling properly, but that's a big SVG. Oh no, that's the font. Hmm. New relative URL found. Okay, so it's actually including one of the font files in the CSS itself, which is interesting, but okay. Yeah, no, it's actually finding the WAF2 files, which is another font file. So I mean, this is, we do sites, and then this might actually be working kind of how we want it to. This is kind of weird if this is actually functional. I'm going to be very happy if that's the case. And yes, there's a ton of logging in here that obviously, again, like once we get closer to an actual like release, we're going to get rid of a whole bunch of this, and we'll maybe use some kind of like 2E framework, whatever, to make it look pretty. But I find like my personal development style is like quick iterations based on like debug logs, or just like find the next thing that fails, whatever. I know that's probably not a super great process, but it is what it is. Okay, so it took 52 seconds. So we haven't added any more time on there, but let's go see if we say find, oh man, find, yeah, grep WAF. Interesting. Okay, so it did not download the files. Which now that I'm thinking about it kind of makes sense. So let's get rid of this. So get URIs to add. So if we have found the URI, like I swear I saw near the top here that it was like that it got those WAF references. Where were they? Maybe not. Am I imagining things? Someone go to the replay and tell me if I'm dumb. Probably. Just looking at the chat here. Thanks, Stasis. Love you. Okay, so why did it? Yeah, okay, so new URL, WP content, themes, eras, assets, fonts. Oh, because we didn't prepend the domain. We didn't prepend the like the initial URI. Okay, so that's kind of should be an easy fix. So now I'm curious. Base URI. When it saw this, what did it see? New URL updated for resource found in CSS. So it's this one, new URL updated for resource found, right? It's got the word updated. Yeah. Okay. So word updated, that one doesn't have it. So this one up here. So we're working in this one. So parse URI, parse that, parse the segments. Oh, right. And then, so get the spider.initial URI. Okay, so let's rmrf sites and cargo run xa.dev. Okay, so hopefully this will prepend, and I just saw them fly by, so did it add? Okay, so this time it added the full path, the nexa.dev. Okay, cool. What up? I'm so close. I feel like I'm very, very, very close here, and I'm pretty sure that this is gonna work. And so if it does, then I'm gonna call it a night. But I'm very, very excited. The fact that this is like so close. The fact that we're like parsing CSS and JavaScript, which is something that I don't even think the wget2 mirror tool does. Okay, so again, 53 seconds. That's wow. So why is it not grabbing those files? We go nexa.dev, no, sites. Oh no, we're already in. Okay, nexa.dev. So if we say cdw content, yep, themes, eris, assets, fonts. So it got the style sheet, but it did not get the WAF files. So why did it not get those? It's obviously finding them because it's putting them in the logs. Getting the new URL. We're stripping unnecessary characters and we're pushing it to the URIs to add. So why is that not being included? Do we have some check that's like if it's not, doesn't start with, it doesn't end with HTTP or the HTML that we just skip it or something? I don't think so. Join all tasks. Okay, what I want to do here, I want to find all of these. So that should get rid of all of the print lns. So what I want to do now is I just want to print out when we're about to fire off a fetch. I want to processing URI. That's the only thing I want. So let's go. RMRF sites. Damn it. Okay, so let's undo that. Yeah, I figured. Okay. I think that's the only multi-line one. Print ln. Okay, fine. Value assigned to new URL is never read. Yeah, see, that seems not right. I think this is the problem, is it's like I think what's really happening here is this is not actually adding the new URL like we thought it was. So how do we do this? Because right now I think what's happening is oh, because we're doing that. Because we're overwriting it there. Okay, so actually, let's just undo all of the println stuff. Okay, so that's actually kind of an easier fix anyways. JS parser. And it's the CSS parser that we actually care about. Okay, so because what we're doing right here is we're overwriting that new URL. Oh my God. Okay, so let's see if we run this again. Why is that failing? Value assigned to new URL is never read. Yeah, so this variable is never actually being like these are not updating it like we think it is, which is real annoying. So let's go to the AI. Oh dear AI. In Rust, how do I define a mutable string that can be updated by inside of any of the if else blocks? Result.push str. Okay, so all right, new URL. So we want to say push str that expected and stir. Okay. Again, we do push stir. As stir. Nope. We want to say let temp equals that, whatever, and then end temp. And then finally, let temp equal that, and then new URL dot push stir and temp. Okay, so now this shouldn't be saying anything about never being read. Correct. Love it. Work it. Work it. Okay. Let's run this again. We'll just open another tab here in sites and nextsite.dev. Let's go ls sites nextsite dev wp content themes eris assets fonts. Damn it. And it probably would have picked those up already. We'll wait till it's done, but I get the feeling that it's not gonna grab those. Oh, you know what? Okay, so I think no, that should work. Yeah. Okay, so these are just parsing them. It's not required to be one of these files. Like the downloading isn't happening here. This is just getting the file type that we need to parse out any future links. Hmm. So if we go to the top here, let's see, where are our EOT files or our WAF files? Okay, so yeah, so that's definitely not correct. We are not putting the URL together correctly, which is something we should work on. This going to say, oops, let temp equals that. Okay. Try that again. Probably broke it in some other way, which is fine. Let's take a look. No, still incorrect. So what are we doing incorrectly here? So parse the entire URI that we've been given. So parse the URI into bits. We get the path segments and we get the last one. So really what this should be here is we just want to replace it from the URI .uri here. Does that seem right? Not really, but I can't think of a better way to do this. So we're going to do it. Well, it's kind of right. It is dot, dot, dot. Eh. Ah, yes. Okay, modernist, bold. Haha, beautiful. So we have working downloads of fonts now. Oh my God, that's amazing. All right. So now, just to be fair, let's let it run for the full thing and let's get the time. Again, we're looking at, if that's how I look all the time. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're trying to, our original time was 52 seconds, 53 seconds, and that's including downloading fonts. So that's awesome. We have not added basically any overhead, and now we're getting all of the requisite resources as well. So that includes like the font files. And again, for anyone who didn't watch the stream yesterday, the wget2 takes about 1:30, and we're doing it in 53 seconds. So again, there's a couple things that we're not doing yet the wget2 does. So we're not taking in, well, actually, let's go back to Notion for a second. So just scan for any strings, blah, 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 relative URLs. Okay, fine. Fonts are referenced here. Yep, we're done that. So other file types are now done. So in tomorrow's stream, pardon me, we are going to work on this. So building a regex skip list so that people can, pardon me, 1 second. Allowing people to inject their own regex to ignore certain paths, which shouldn't really be that difficult. I think the most complicated thing is going to be finding a crate that allows us to take in command line arguments in a more intelligent way than just like args env or env args or whatever, stood env. Again, should be a pretty simple one, but I've been going for almost 2 hours here now, and I'm starting to get hungry. So I think I'm probably going to go get some dinner here. But just to recap, I think we're making crazy good progress here. Like we're almost near what I would consider feature parity for the mirroring functionality of wget2. Obviously, we're not trying to be wget2 all around. We're just trying to do the mirroring part. And wget2 is already a crazy improvement over wget1 because wget1 wasn't even was only single threaded. So like indexing my site would take on the order of about 2 to 3 minutes. wget2 being able to parallelize all those connections brought it down to about 1.5 minutes, and we are now at like 53 seconds. So we're doing awesome here. But yeah, so if you've hung around this long, thank you so much for hanging out. I will be back in the next day or two, probably not tomorrow evening. I might do one in the afternoon, but I've got yoga tomorrow night. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just want to keep banging on this until we've got something like vaguely useful. And then I'm probably going to open source it. I've just got to talk to one person tomorrow about some possible complications with that. But barring any weirdness that comes from that conversation, I'd like to have like a 0.1 release of this kind of by the end of the week to have something out there that people can play around with and hack on and scream at me for being such a bad Rust coder. So anyways, again, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Later.